everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the latest episode of Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco. This episode was a long time coming because I was looking for years for a certain record from this artist. And I finally have it, and I can hardly wait to present it to you because it's considered as one of the greatest deep soul albums you probably have never heard of. This week we are featuring...
Let me introduce a man who sings in an entirely different manner. Started out with gospel singing, turned to jazz, has had a couple of great hit sides. About, let me see if I can remember now, the month of August approximately. And there's always something there to remind me was the name of the song. Ladies and gentlemen, let's warmly greet our next guest, Mr. Lou Johnson.
Why I don't agree that Lou Johnson is soul's biggest loser, and how Alan Toussaint brought a lost album back into the public light, well, we'll discuss this after some needle drops.
Ooh, yeah. Lost in a world, and brother, look what you have done to the world. To your misery, you brought joy to the world. Some think they want it, but it's after you have done it to see you through, see you through, see you all through, baby, all time.
Lou Johnson was born in 1941 in Brooklyn, where he also studied music at the Brooklyn College. He had two groups, the Zionettes and the Conjures. Two members of the Conjures later became the Soul Sisters. These groups were locally known, but really didn't have a big breakthrough. But in 1962, Lou became his first record deal at Big Top, which was run by Hill and Range, a very famous music publishing company. He also met a songwriting duo, Burt Bacharach and Hal David. Yes, these two. And they wrote his first singles. And these were I Never Get to Love You and You Better Let Him Go. Those two singles didn't do much, but his third single, Reach Out For Me, became a minor hit. As the record was climbing in the charts, at the same time, Big Top had huge financial problems and the label collapsed. So the chances for promoting this record collapsed with it, and it led to just a minor hit. In 1964, Lou changed record labels and got a member of Big Hill, where he continued to work with Burt and Hal. And he recorded songs which were later been huge hits for other artists. For example, There's Always Something There to Remind Me. When he recorded the single, Doris Troy, Cissy Houston, and Dee Dee Warwick were on the backing vocals. So top-notch musicians, backing vocals, studios, everything. But also these singles didn't do much. The same as A Message to Martha, who also wasn't a real big hit. But he had an appearance with it on the Dick Clark show. Let's have a listen.
Very nice. How many musical instruments do you play?
About 4.
Well, I imagine if you play that many instruments, sing as many different styles as you can, you've learned a good deal in your short life. How do you categorize the Kentucky Bluebird? What kind of music?
I would almost call it a folk tune, somehow, something.
All right, let's try it on for size. This is the latest with Lou Johnson, called the Kentucky Bluebird.
Spread your wings for New Orleans, Kentucky bluebird, fly away and take a
In 1965, he even had an appearance on Ready Steady Go, which was in the UK a huge show where also people from Motown appeared. Unfortunately, there is no footage available of Lou appearing there. During the later years of the 60s, he worked with Alan Toussaint, who did Anytime and a version of Walk On By with him. Also, these songs didn't do much. In 1969, he recorded his first album. And here it is. Sweet Southern Soul. So, yes, these kind of covers were famous. I know one with James Brown where you just see the face. It's personally not my preferred take to do a record cover, but anyway, this was his first one. It was produced by Jerry Wexler, who was the top man at Atlantic. And Cotillion was a sub-label of Atlantic, and they used the top-notch studios, the top-notch musicians, songwriters, and this record sounds tremendously well. And also the way he sings it and presents the music, it's just perfect. But you know what? This record didn't do much. And in 1971, Lou was recording his second and final album. And he decided, and I can understand it totally from an artist's point of view, that he went to Alan Toussaint, went to New Orleans and recorded an album there, a deep soul classic. He could have gone the easy way and do a pop or folk song at that time to get more into mainstream, but he decided to do what he does best, a deep soul album. Commercially, that was very, very risky, because at that time party music, pop music was really the thing. People didn't want to hear too much about heartbreak, depression, all these kind of things. So Doris Duke, for example, also made I'm a Loser, which is also considered one of the greatest deep soul albums of all time. But also at that time, nobody really cared for that album. Just in recent years, With You in Mind from Lou Johnson and Doris Duke's I'm a Loser get finally the recognition they should have gotten all along. So in 1971, Lou made the trip to New Orleans and recorded With You in Mind on Vault. And here it is in all of its glory. And finding this album in a decent condition is very difficult. Thankfully, it's not super expensive. And unfortunately, I say it again and again, there are so many great albums out there which are not getting a reissue treatment in any form. This is one of these albums who has not been reissued since 1971. So Vinyl Me Please, or whoever might be watching this, please consider this album on your reissue list. And the first one, hope you can see that, Sweet Southern Soul, got a reissue, and you can also listen to this on Spotify, on YouTube, wherever you want to listen to it. This one, you only find a needle drop on YouTube. It is sad, but it's true. This album was forgotten for a long, long time. Till Alan Toussaint in the early 90s, in the early 2000s, was starting giving interviews, and when he was asked about the favorite song he ever wrote, he always mentioned one song in particular. And this is Transition. And this is an 8 minutes and 90 seconds song. And what he said about that...
Finances aside, how do you measure the success of a song? Well, finances aside, there's no way. Of the success of a song, far as quote unquote public, and what makes it a success is how many it sells and how many people say yes. And I have to put it that way because the writer can feel quite differently about that, the success of a song. One of my very best songs that I feel was most successful far as me writing, and it was better than me, was a song called Transition that I wrote for Lou Johnson. And I don't know if anyone heard it but he and I.
Could you play a little bit of that for us?
Probably not. It was quite involved. So I consider that a very successful song from the songwriter me. Sales-wise, nothing. Maybe the worst.
Yeah, and I can only, if you are into soul, this is a record you should have in your collection. And once again, you can get this, depending on the condition, between $20 to $60. This is the back, like I said, on Vault. So at that time, Vault was a pretty good sub-label of Stax, and they also had Margie Joseph, for example. So I was very fortunate to get a promo copy, a stereo promo copy of this album. So this is the first side. This is, driving a car. This is the second side of this soul masterpiece. Really, have a listen to it on YouTube so you can get an impression of what, if you didn't know it, missed out. But what happened to Lou Johnson? And my question at the beginning, why I'm not agreeing with the sentence, Lou is the biggest loser in music history. I have the sentence from a French publication who wrote this text when Lou passed away in 2019. And maybe it was lost in translation, and I don't think that the author meant any harm to it. But for me, if we have a definition of loser, I don't like this word at all, is if you're not trying the best you can, and if you're just seeing it like, oh yeah, I might try that, if I'm not putting my heart and soul into it, that might be true. But Lou put his everything in his work. He only released 10 singles and 2 albums, but each of them are very, very high quality, and I'm sure he put his everything in it. What happened to Lou? Well, after this album failed, Lou said goodbye to the big music business, and he became a nightclub entertainer, and later on he did the Ink Spots. In 2000, he was a guest star on another album, but all his, as a keyboarder, but all his efforts as a keyboarder, but all efforts to bring him back to the music business failed. Maybe he was too hurt, maybe he thought nobody's interested in his music. We will never know. But what we know for sure is that the legacy he left behind is tremendously good. So making this decision and doing such a deep soul album was, when you look back, maybe not such a bad decision, because he could have had a few hits and he was remembered like someone, oh, he had 2-3 hits that weren't so bad or good. But now he's remembered as creating and helping to create one of the greatest deep soul albums from all time. So yeah, I can't praise him enough. So I need to find a way to stop now. So all I can say now is, have a listen to it. Check it out on YouTube and have a listen to it. And you can thank me later on. If you see it somewhere in the wild, in a condition you prefer, go and get it. You won't be disappointed with this album. So, all I can say is stay safe, stay healthy, listen to good music. Maybe, hold on, I hold the first one, Lou Johnson. And also what I want to point out, the cover for this one is so spot on. It's so tremendously spot on. If you listen to the album and see the cover, then you'll understand. So maybe Lou Johnson, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.